Today, the average woman weighs 157 pounds, but would like to weigh 140 pounds, while the average man weighs 193 pounds, but would ideally weigh about 185 pounds. The trouble is, body weight gives us absolutely no indication of how much fat or how much muscle a person carries on their frame. This relative proportion is critical as it's related to our overall health and how our body moves and behaves, and how we look and feel aesthetically. I'm sure you've seen weight loss advertisements or even television series that showcase men and women who are able to lose hundreds of pounds over only a few weeks' time. The contestants step up onto a scale to show the audience how much weight they have lost each week, with success being weight loss and failure being little or no loss. But no one ever quantifies those losses. Do they lose fat? Or do they lose muscle too? For some people, tracking body weight is an appropriate tool to keep them on track with their goals. But for others, it may be misleading. For example, in my research, in addition to tracking body weight, we also often track muscle mass and fat mass changes. We track these before, during, and after an exercise and nutritional intervention of several weeks or months. One of the most glaring examples of weighing misuse was when a participant, an overweight, middle-aged woman, came to me and told me she was going to drop out of the program because she was having no results. This was a total shock because I had personally measured her success in the study. She had improved her upper and lower body strength and had increased her ability to complete high-intensity cardiovascular exercise. She told me she was feeling better than she had in the past 10 years, and a blood chemistry panel showed that her cardiovascular and metabolic health was improving too. As far as body composition, she had steadily lost fat mass and gained muscle during her first 6 weeks working out with us. She was an absolute image of success. But what did her scale read? Failure. The only metric she had used to determine her progress was body weight. Despite her belief that her clothes fit better and that her belt needed to be tightened, and that she was getting compliments from her family and friends about her physique, she didn't care, because the number on the scale had not yet changed. You see, she had lost several pounds of body fat, but also gained a near equal amount of muscle. So she weighed exactly the same, despite the fact that the composition of the weight had changed dramatically. And this is the point. How can we better quantify success with weight management? After this lecture, you will have a better, healthier idea of what's happening to your body during weight loss, what benchmarks are typically used to indicate success, and why success goes far beyond simply what the scale tells you. We'll start with a concept called body mass index, often abbreviated as BMI. Now, BMI compares your body weight in kilograms to your height in meters squared. A note of caution here. Measures like BMI or body weight may be relevant only in certain situations. The usefulness of BMI is not great when considered on an individual-to-individual basis. In practice, BMI is most appropriate for large sample populations, like considering the status of a state or a country, or in clinical situations to quantify the risk for a patient who was clearly overweight and overfat at the same time. So if you are the same height as your best friend and you weigh a bit more, you will also have a slightly higher BMI. And BMI assumes any extra weight is due to greater fat weight. So in this case, your higher BMI is associated with more negative health outcomes. But as we've already discussed, that may be a problem with this measure. Let me explain. There are 4 main categories of BMI, which again is your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. Underweight, which is less than 18.5, normal weight, which is 18.5 to 24.9, overweight, which is 25 to 29, and obese, which is classified as a BMI over 30. Research has consistently shown a positive association between a high BMI and a greater risk of cardiovascular, pulmonary, and metabolic disease. If you are curious about your own body mass index, calculate it, or look online for a free website that can give you the information. The trouble is that BMI, once again, only considers your body weight and body height, and does not account for the proportion of muscle mass or fat mass, which is the composition of your body weight. Take, for example, a typical NFL running back. These men are very strong and have lots of lean muscle mass and very little body fat. They are professional athletes and do not look overweight or overfat. Most will have a 6-pack of abs. Assuming this running back is just about 6 feet tall and a touch over 230 pounds due to all of his muscle mass, his BMI would be over 31 kilograms per meter squared. According to the BMI standards I just mentioned, our professional, healthy, lean athlete would be considered obese, even though common sense tells us otherwise. And if you calculate BMI for the average US woman, she is 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighs 156 pounds, and subsequently has a BMI of 25.2, which, as you now know, is considered overweight. This example demonstrates that certain measures like BMI or body weight may be relevant only in certain situations. Let's move on to better measures of body composition, which is different from body weight and body mass index. As you now know, body composition is the relationship between the different types of tissue that comprise your body. In other words, how much muscle and how much fat make up your body weight. So, if you compare yourself again to your friend of equal height, and you weigh more, but we know that the extra weight is from increased muscle mass, this likely indicates better health despite a higher BMI. To account for fat-free mass, and not just total body weight, the fat-free mass index was developed. It is similar to BMI, but it takes your fat-free mass or muscle mass, again in kilograms, divided by your height in meters squared. This index can quantify your body composition more accurately when you know that you have extra weight that is mostly from muscle. It is not always a better index, but it is a different index. And like any index, will be more or less useful depending on the specific need of the information. While the fat-free mass index is not used nearly as much as body mass index, a few research papers have attempted to come up with normal fat-free mass index values for men and women. A paper in 2002 in the International Journal of Obesity-Related Metabolic Disorders found the average fat-free mass index for young women is about 15 kilograms per meter squared, and for young men is 19 kilograms per meter squared. But keep in mind that these values change slightly after age 35, showing that fat mass is gained as we age, most likely due to a sedentary lifestyle. The number of options scientists have developed to better quantify fat and muscle indicates the importance of knowing them. Now, let's look at the specific reasons why these indices are important to consider, and more specific information about body fat and muscle. For starters, it can be helpful for knowing your health status and risk of certain kinds of diseases, like cardiovascular disease, pulmonary disease, and metabolic disease, like type 2 diabetes. It is well established that if you have a lot of fat deposition, particularly around your waist and belly, near your major organs, that your chance of developing these types of diseases increases dramatically. Secondly, knowing your current body composition gives you greater clarity about your starting point if you decide that you need a change. You will better be able to track your body's changes over time and have a bigger picture of success. Let's get a little bit more specific about body fat and muscle mass and what they're actually describing. In terms of body composition, your total body fat, including essential and storage body fat. Essential fat includes fat in your organs, such as your heart, liver, kidneys, intestines, muscles, and bone marrow. This type of fat is required for normal physiological functioning and is different greatly between men and women. In fact, it accounts for most of the major body fat differences between sexes. Women have around 12% essential fat compared to men who have about 3% essential fat. Why do you think women might have a bit more essential fat? Well, mostly due to their biological function for reproduction. Women need extra fat stores during pregnancy. Regardless of whether a woman has children or not, she will most often have slightly more fat than a man. For this reason, it is important not to compare your body fat percentage to friends of the opposite sex. Now, it is fun to get competitive with a friend or significant other, but realize that the optimal body fat percentage is vastly different between men and women. So, to reiterate, men have about 3% essential fat and women have about 12% essential fat. But these numbers are still drastically low. There's another type of fat that is also required for normal body function. And this is called storage fat, which is fat stored and it can be used for energy. It includes the visceral fat or deep fat around your organs and the fat just underneath your skin, which is called subcutaneous fat. Storage fat can insulate your body, helps to maintain body temperature, and provides vital protection for your organs. The amount of storage fat is more similar between men and women, usually just 2 to 3% higher in a woman. So, health issues come in when our storage fat becomes excessive. Body fat is important for supporting daily function